I want to talk a little bit about flashes, both the onboard flash and an external flash. I'm getting a lot of questions these days about budget flashes, and I want to make sure everybody is aware of just kind of how your flash functions, onboard and external, and the differences between something like an E-TTL flash and a manual flash. But before we get into that, let me say one other thing, and this is one of the many reasons I encourage people to move away from the basic modes on the camera. Shooting in auto mode. I was recently on vacation with a group of folks. They had some Nikon and Canon DSLRs. They were kind of beginners. They've been shooting for a while, but they had never really tried to get off of automatic mode. And I noticed that the flash, these cameras, are very flash happy. It's very quick to say, oh, I don't have enough light, let me pop up my flash. And most of the time, there was enough light. These are these kind of edge case scenarios. I mean, sure, there are certainly times where the light levels are too low and you would either end up, without the flash, you would end up with very grainy, high ISO images, or slow enough shutter speed that everything is blurry. You don't want that. But there are a lot of these edge case scenarios where there is just enough light, especially maybe if you turn your subject a little bit, or just change your settings just a little bit, open up your aperture, things like that, and you would get much, much better pictures. So try to move off that automatic mode. Don't let your flash be so flash happy. You're going to have better pictures. If you do find yourself using the flash often, then you do want to consider something like an external flash for a couple of different reasons, and we'll get into that in just a second. Now, as I said, I'm getting a lot of questions about budget flashes, and there is a brand out there. There's several brands, but the really popular one right now that's getting excellent reviews, and I hope to have some more information, hands-on information about those soon, is the Yongnuo, Y-O-N-G-N-U-O. And I'm not positive I'm pronouncing that correctly. If you can pronounce it better, leave the little comment down below with the phonetic spelling. They offer some great budget flashes, but what you have to be careful of when you're shopping for those is making sure you're going to get an E-TTL flash. Unless you know what you're doing, a non-E-TTL flash, which is a manual flash, can add an extra layer of trickiness to your shooting if you're using it on the camera. If you're using it off the camera in kind of studio work, a full manual flash is perfectly fine, and it actually is preferable to E-TTL because you can set that power of that light source over there and you know what it's going to be every single time for your settings. But in a non-studio situation, a walk-around situation, family gatherings, you want that E-TTL. Here's what E-TTL means, and that term is specific to Canon, but there's the same idea for Nikon. It's the ITL, I believe, or ITTL. Very, very similar. It's basically, what it means is that the flash and the camera can talk nicely to each other. And it's kind of a neat piece of technology. What happens is, when you go to take a picture with the flash, is you push that shutter button, and there is a pre-flash that is so close to the actual flash, you don't see any difference. You don't see two flashes, but there always are two flashes. The first flash tests the scene for the exposure. The second flash then is the amount of flash you need to properly expose the scene based on your settings, the distance to your subject, the reflectiveness of the scene, all of these things. Now the camera obviously doesn't get all of it right all of the time, especially the onboard flash of the Canon. I've given that some negative marks before. It's not as good as exposing. But you do have some control over that with that flash exposure compensation. You can lower the output or raise the output relative to what the flash thinks it should be. You don't have any hard control. You can't say flash at half output. You can only say stops below or stops above. In manual mode of the flash, you can say that makes the difference. Let's look really quickly at some samples. I have the T5i sitting here. That's the onboard flash. Let's see if it's awake. And it is, and I've already pre-focused and set it for a 2-second. I'm sure that's going to be a lovely picture. 2 seconds. So that is the onboard flash pointed directly at me. Now, I'm going to put this flash on. It just slides in and locks. This is the 580EX2. I was going to use the little 430 my old 430EX, but then I realized that no 2 after the number means that the camera, it does E-TTL, but all of the other functions are not controllable from the camera. I don't know if you can see, but I have the LCD flipped around right here, and it's really nice to be able to do that. I can control all of the settings of this camera and the flash from the touchscreen LCD. One of the nice features of the Canon is that touchscreen LCD and having all of the menu available to you. I don't have to go behind this camera for the flash or the camera. So, flash is pointed straight at me. Actually, here's what I need to do. Oh, I lied. I do have to press menu, which is back here. And I'm going to go to flash control, and I'm going to go to the external flash function settings, and I'm going to make sure it's in E-TTL mode, and it's pointed straight at me. This is something I don't recommend you do. 2-second time, and then we get that picture, and I am momentarily blind. Now, what I like much more than pointed straight at me is pointed up and back like this. So this is when you get this nice bounce flash action. This is one of the reasons why it's nice to own an external flash. Now, if I press this down, we're going to get a nice picture. There we go. So much more pleasing colors. I don't have that flashed look to myself. Now, if that was all E-TTL, so the camera was figuring out how much flash output to put out. Now, let's change that. I'm going to go back into the menu, and I'm going to tell this flash to be a manual flash. Don't do any thinking about it. So external flash controls, I'm going to go to manual, and then once I'm on manual, I have a huge range of flash output levels from full power, 1/1, all the way down to 1/128th. So we have very granular control of the amount of output. Let's do a 1/1 real quick. This is a full power flash. This is not going to be pretty. It's a very bright image because the camera didn't change the output of the flash, and I'm shooting in P mode, and whenever you slap a flash on and shoot in P mode, it always does 1/60th of a second and 40 seconds. So press a menu, let's go in flash control, and I'm just going to do one more to show you. I'm going to turn the flash power all the way down to 1/128, and now I can press that. And it's going to look quite dim. So the better one lies somewhere in between. There are reasons to use manual flash, but as a beginner, when you're buying a new flash, you want to make sure that it has E-TTL capabilities to it. I'll put links to the 2 Yongnuo flashes that do have E-TTL capabilities down below. They are very affordable still, so you want to stay away from the manual ones unless you're setting up for a group of them in some kind of studio work. If you've got any questions about flashes, flash output, Yongnuo flashes or other flashes, there are Canon flashes as well, the 430EX2, the 320, the 270, all of those are very good, but right now I do think the Yongnuo are an excellent buy. Build quality seems not as solid as the Canon, but good enough that I think those savings are worthwhile there. So, questions about those, leave a comment down below, or even better, come over and find me on Facebook. And please subscribe and give this a thumbs up. It helps other people find these helpful videos. Thanks for watching.